Hey, I thought I would show everybody a quick overview of what logic modeling is. We talked about it very briefly, so I thought I could talk you through it a little bit as well as you're working on the rough draft for our basic skills logic model before our next meeting. So here we go. All right, so our logic model here, we're going to talk about why we're doing what we're doing and how we do that. And we get to that through a theory of change. And very briefly, what a logic model is it's a one-page synopsis or overview about what you do, how you do it, and why you do it. Why you create a logic model. I know you can definitely read this here. Again, it's just a visual representation of an attended effects. You're thinking that 30,000 foot level, what are we doing? So not the minutia of every single one of our activities, but what are we as a committee doing? Typically, they look like this. So on the left here, you'll see resources and inputs. That's basically funding, people, organizations that are helping you. Activities are the stuff and things you're doing. The outputs are things you can tangibly see or measure. So it'll generally be a thing that's produced or something like an increase, like 50% of something will increase because of what these activities are. And then you have the short, medium, and long-term outcomes. Short could be as quickly as a change as soon as the activity is over, all the way up to maybe a year or two later. Medium might be 3 to 5 years later, and long can be something like 7, 10. I think of that as the impact, like 7, 10 years later. Inside this PowerPoint, it kind of goes over what I just said. You can look at that again. I would say the major things that people get hung up on is the output is something you can tangibly see or a change, and the outcome. So the output is this change that you can see or touch or feel, so like a percentage change, and the outcomes are you can't necessarily touch them; they're not tangible, but they could be feeling changes, programmatic changes, things like that. And I'll show you a couple examples. The way this logic model works is you're doing things, you're acting in the first part again. These are the funding and the sources and things you're doing, and that moves into this theory of change, which are the impact you're hoping to make. These can also be connected to goals, which connect to our why. We're going to talk more about our why on Monday. Again, this PowerPoint is available to you. I just thought I would try to talk you through it a little bit. So these objectives, if you want to think about that way, are things you can measure. Goals are things that are broader, that objectives are that come into. So outcomes, goals, things like that, all into our why do we have a basic skills committee? Why are we doing this thing? Here's a brief example of the tutoring logic model. You can't really see this, but it's in the PowerPoint. Again, this is a little more fleshed out. We've worked on this over the course of a couple of years. You'll see that it also contains a theory of change and a mission statement. Assumptions and external factors are filled out, and this is something that gets updated every year. It's something that's constantly in flux and you're constantly working on. But again, it's a one-page synopsis for what a program is doing. There's some definitions here, again, about what the inputs are, what the activities are, what the outputs are, and the outcomes. We're going to work on a theory of change next week, but again, this is basically your why. If we provide something, like training or networking or something, and we use, for example, professional learning, then our students, faculty, MESA, will do something. If they do that thing, this will lead to something else. So it's kind of like this chain thinking. It goes back to our why. You'll see the LRAS example inside this PowerPoint. Here's also the tutoring example. And then there's also some reflection in here for you to do. I wanted to briefly show you what I started that I'm going to send to you that hopefully you'll add to. This is a draft. There's some initial ideas. I've added some inputs over here. You'll see some activities for our basic skills committee. So I said overarching, we probably want to hire more tutors. If we do that, we'll probably be able to serve in the next year 5% more math, English, ESL students. If we do that, a short-term outcome would be embedded tutoring qualitatively and quantitatively is shown to be connected to student success. Instructors will connect teaching techniques with learning assistants in 3 to 5 years, so that's a longer-term impact or change. And every accelerated course utilizes embedded tutoring would be something that there'd be a transformative change in a long term. Lastly, another example I put in here was, okay, basic skills committee activity this year. They're going to participate in professional learning during meeting time. We've talked about that a few times. So maybe the output or something tangible is, all right, we'll have 4 readings per semester. Maybe each member, we're hoping that they get to 3 of them at least. So if they hit 4, then we're going above and beyond. So you always want to keep that output somewhere in the realm of possibility. Lastly, that what's going to happen because of that in 0 to 2 years are the BSI ideas are shared during department meetings in certain departments connected to BSI. In 3 to 5 years, maybe non-BSI faculty are collaborating, communicating more with math, English, ESL, and counseling to talk about how we have all the same students. And then lastly, maybe 7 to 10 years, faculty across the curriculum utilize and support BSI strategies in all classes. So this is just a couple of examples. These can definitely change, but I thought I would send these along to show you. All right, have fun. See you on Monday.